aim the challenge. So the challenge is reasonably quite simple in that after we've defined and suggested that when we have a pinprick it brings a new awareness about all of the challenges that are available to us as information to make a decision about how we're going to play a specific shot, and then the theory that the more specific that is, and the more information the brain has, the more that it's going to conspire at both a conscious and unconscious level to move you towards where it is that you want to go. That's going to help you construct better imagery, and as you construct better imagery, that again empowers the brain to move you toward where it is that you want to go. The challenge, I suppose, is asking a beginner that hasn't even hit a ball yet, or an improver that seldom ever hits it anywhere near where they want it to go, to accept the fact that they're going to aim at a pinprick. Because I suppose at a psychological level, we're actually setting them up for failure, which was one of the challenges of the dustbin lid theory, in that by removing the pinprick, the hole, and putting a dustbin lid on, it meant that failure was less likely, therefore we got rid of certain pressures. And of course the real challenge is to question the client, to educate the client, to excite the client, to change their whole philosophy almost of life within this one single idea. In other words, that it's just a process, and it doesn't mean that there's going to be an outcome that's better. It just means that when we do this process, it's likely to reduce the spread of where the ball goes. But even if it doesn't, it's better to do this process than any other process. We're asking, therefore, for starting to introduce people to the journey and to being present in that journey. And then that brings us on to this whole area of being in the now, being in the moment, experiencing the moment, and all that can be gained from experiencing that moment. So for instance, you know, we pick a pinprick, and because we pick a pinprick, all sorts of things come into our attention that wouldn't otherwise, and we create really powerful, strong imagery in all three channels. And so we feel it, we hear it, we see it, we imagine it, which takes us, connects us more and more to that target. So more and more we're moving to this point where we're connected to this target, and then we can trust in ourselves to allow our golf swing to go off rather than make it work. So this is, if you like, the utopia that we're all after. This is our goal. When we do this, we're likely to move ourselves towards peak performance. But there's a kind of like a little bonus here as well. Because when we now also bring in feedback, when we've made all these movements, felt all these feelings, seen and heard everything, and then we don't do, when we actually hit the shot, what we were planning to do, because we took that pinprick aim, we've got a measurement of what it is that we didn't do. We can feedback almost immediately after the shot about what happened. Now the advantage of this then is that if we're going to do all that feedback about what the difference was between the shot that we imagined that we were going to make and the shot that we did, then because we're going to go into that feedback, we're not going to go into any emotional response. So it's just like you know, a ripple in a pond. It just keeps on going out and out and out and bringing in more things and going wider and wider into its scope. So you're going to need quite a few metaphors and spend quite a lot of time with your clients, especially at beginner level, to get over to them these philosophies, these ideas, and that when golf is played this way, they're far more likely to perform better, but also be happier, and also because they are in a feedback mode, they're willing to learn, then they will carry on going forward. There is just a tiny little caveat. There is two ways to respond to the shot. And we'll go through a little bit in this, more in the pre and post shot routine, but it's this idea that we can just forgive ourselves for the shot, whatever happened, and accept ourselves for what we are. But I'll go in that with a little bit more detail. But again, it is surrounding this fact that we need to produce a whole set of benefits to the client of getting into process, and that process is what golf's about, and the more that we repeat these processes, the more likely it is that we're going to have outcomes that are neutral, let's say, because that's what we're generally after. We're after a neutral response to outcome. We're after almost an egoless state when we've hit the shot of evaluation, so that we don't allow our emotions to stamp any psychological behaviours that might affect our next shot. So the challenge is quite clear. We must fully sell to the client, whether they be a tour player, but especially a beginner and especially an improver, that it's not about the fact that we're setting ourselves up for failure by picking a pinprick. What it is, we're getting into a process that, if you believe all of the explanations, it would be something you'd want to do. So in other words, if they don't believe it's worthwhile aiming at a pinprick, it's your challenge to carry on digging until you can uncover some of these beliefs and change those beliefs. And there will be no point in selling them a pinprick if they can't accept that it's just a process and it's not necessarily going to help them with an outcome goal. Not necessarily. It will, I am sure of that, but hey, it's still going to be a belief. So the challenge, make sure you can sell that challenge.